Warm greetings from the High 10. It is Everyday Shenanigans, and thanks for joining me. Tonight's commentary is pertaining to the U.S. versus Robert Sylvester Kelly. He is facing a federal trial in Brooklyn, New York, and my source for this evening is Court TV. Thank you.
Welcome back. The prosecution rested today in the case against R&B superstar R. Kelly. Meanwhile, the defense first witness took the stand. I think we've got some images from inside. I say images because it's not video. That's due to the Supreme Court rules set down by your Chief Justice. But there's R. Kelly back in court. And a big day. When the prosecution rests, they've said basically, we've put enough up there to prove it all. Meanwhile, one of the witnesses who took the stand last week interviewed with Good Morning America about her experience working for R. Kelly.
He had like 3 properties, and those properties, there was like a certain decorum. I know Robert, the family man, the businessman, but his personal life is Robert's personal life. So my job stops at the threshold of his bedroom door.
That's a lot safer there at the threshold and not going on the other side. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae, who joins us live from Brooklyn, New York tonight. Let's talk about it. We're in the defense case. How about their first witness? Who'd they put up?
Vinny, their first witness was an aspiring musical rapper who went by the name Deny. He said he used to be the chairman of Undeniable Records. He even came in today armed with his own music that he said that he wanted Kelly to listen to. The defense attorney asked if it could be played in court. Judge Donnelly said absolutely not. But the issue for Deny to get in front of this jury is he told them that he has known Kelly for 15 years. He worked on musical projects with the singer and says that he never saw any verbal abuse or physical abuse, never saw him strike a woman, never saw him deny a woman food or access to a bathroom. Actually, he called it chivalrous the way the defendant treated women and didn't eat before they were eating, stood when they walked into a room. He says that he stood up for them out of a sign of respect. He also said that there was a time that he flew out to Chicago to meet with the defendant, talk with him about a musical project, and he had to wait for a couple of days before Kelly was able to meet with him in one of the rooms. And here's what the defense attorney asked him, Calvin Scholar. He said, "Why was it that you waited? Why did you not leave after all those days?" And the witness said that he understood that this is how things are. He understood what was going on, how the music business is, and just how busy Kelly was with his music. He also spoke to the rules. He said that there weren't any rules that he saw imposed on the female guests, the accusers who have come in to testify against the defendant. And he said this rule about knocking. We heard some accusers say they had to knock before they entered a room, before they exited a room. He said this was a common courtesy. He had to knock because there was a creative process going on almost at all times. Knocking was common courtesy. It could throw off the entire thing if someone walked in when you are recording. The prosecution.
Let me stop right there. I will be interjecting. This is a bunch of BS. What I'd like to know is, let's just cut to the chase. Mr. Deny, have you had sexual relations with Robert Kelly? Did he pay for you to fly out to Chicago? Because R. Kelly is known to pay for the young girls' women's visits to Chicago, their accommodations. So let's keep it 100. Has Robert Kelly slept with this young man? Because he slept with everybody, it seems. Because I don't think there's really anybody that's off limits except for someone that was possibly elderly, 70 and above. Yeah, I'm saying that. Because Robert Kelly is vile. So what do we believe about this young man's testimony? That he was courteous. He stood up when the women walked into the room. He didn't see any allegations of abuse from Mr. Kelly towards any female. There was a process. He respected it. Waited days, which we have to ask ourselves, who would go fly to Chicago and wait days to see someone? Especially if it was on your own dime. Would you wait? Just say. Because they do not specify in this said commentary who paid for the trip. Because R. Kelly is known to hire his henchmen and women to make arrangements for the said girls and women to fly to Chicago and other said locales where Mr. Kelly would be. This is very interesting testimony. But the topper is the beginning. Letting this man sit in court and ask to play his music. What the hell does he think he is? This is a court of law, a federal court. This is a federal court with no recordings, no audio, no video recording of said matters mandated by the Supreme Court. And you want to waltz your tail in court asking, can R. Kelly hear your music? So now we see that he is a dying groupie, not fan, groupie. Yeah, we're going to go there and say that. Because you would walk into a courtroom, a federal courtroom, asking the judge, can you play your music? Where have you ever heard of such shenanigans? It's disrespectful to the court. Very disrespectful to the court. So as I said, I'm going to say it again. Mr. Deny, have you had sexual relations with Mr. Robert Kelly? How did you get to Chicago? Did he pay for your ticket to and fro? And why would you wait so many days to see him? And then you allege that you don't have any knowledge of him abusing any woman, child, girl, whomever, while you were in his company. And so we then have to ask, where are you from? Where did you derive from? How long did you stay in Chicago? How long did you travel to and fro to Chicago in your dealings with Mr. Kelly? The plot thickens.
On cross-examination, they were able to draw out that he really is still someone who is very loyal to the defendant, wants him to be a part of his music, still has unreleased music that he put together with Kelly.
Okay, so he literally wanted to play his demo in court today for R. Kelly. Is that what I'm taking away from this?
Vinny, I can't believe it either. I was really surprised at even why that came out on direct, because it did make him seem like a really loyal fan rather than an unbiased witness who's just telling what he saw. But he said he had the music, he would like to play it, and Attorney Scholar asked the judge if he had permission to play it, and she said no, that's not going to happen.
Of course.
So Deny was denied.
Deny was denied. Undeniably.
There's a long setup for that.
I love it.
Long setup. All right. Stay where you are, Julie Janae. Let's bring back in our think tank. This is, all right. Jennifer Brandt, is this as silly as I think it is? That you call your first witness and he's like, I got to play my demo for Robert.
I think it is pretty silly, Vinny, and it's pretty sad that this is the best that he could come up with. Yes. I mean, I think it really shows the weakness in his case, that his first witness is somebody who is literally a fan and someone who wants R. Kelly in the position that he's in to hear his music. So it just sounds bad all around. Yes. And the one thing that I thought was really interesting is that he did confirm the knocking. I mean, we heard the prosecution witness talk about that quite a bit in the prosecution's case. And he confirmed the knocking. Of course, he offered a different explanation for it, but I think it lets the jury know that that was something that did go on, and they can draw their own conclusions from the testimony they've heard thus far as to why there was the infamous knocking before entering R. Kelly's room.
All right, Casey, what do we do if when the jury's deliberating, the first note they send out is, can we listen to Deny's demo?
Well, obviously, the judge will deny that request because it was not entered into evidence. And oftentimes, the jury will ask for certain pieces of evidence that was a demonstrative aid as opposed to it being entered into evidence. But I'm thinking the same thing. If this is what the defense has, I'm pretty sure that this is just going down. Unless they're saving their strongest witness towards the end, I would suggest as the defense attorney that they put on emails to counter what the prosecution put up with their Jane Does, that they were in the industry, they were never disrespected by Kelly, they would never harm physically, sexually. But if they're going to put up Deny as their strongest witness in the beginning, this is going downhill. As a defense attorney, you want to put the strongest witness in the front and in the back. Get that sandwich in. So this is not a good way to start.
All right. Let's bring back in Julie Janae. We'll get to you, Michael. I want you to react to this. So, Julia, who was the second witness? If the first witness was denied, the second witness objection, who was it?
A second witness, a lot more strong when you think about his background and the way it may come across for this jury. As far as credibility, is a security officer for Kelly named Larry Hood. He's someone who worked with him between 1991 to 95, and then again from 2002 to 2004. And in between that time, he joined the Chicago Police Department, served as a police officer until 2007, left the department in good standing. And he says during the time that he was working for Kelly, he did not observe any underage girls performing with Kelly in his studio, never witnessed any abuse, and was never made aware of any wrongdoing as someone who was there in this enforcement type of position. On cross-examination, though, prosecutors asked him about his background with the defendant, and he did say that he was a childhood friend, someone who had known him growing up. He said that he was also with Kelly when he first met Aaliyah when she was 12 or 13 years old, when they were with her parents and they first invited her to come on the road and produce with Kelly. He said he didn't know anything about the marriage and learned about it about a year later. He agrees that he didn't check IDs at the studio, so may not have known for sure the age of the female guests around, but overall refuting what we've heard from those other former employees who have taken the stand talking about who was around Kelly and what may have transpired as far as what accusers say happened when they were alone with him.
Michael Bixon, I think this is a little bit better, a police officer. But again,
absolutely.
Childhood friend.
I mean, don't get me wrong, not perfect, but, by leaps and bounds, way better than what they brought out for the first witness. I mean, you're supposed to start as strong as possible, end as strong as possible, and that wasn't a very strong opening. If they started with Mr. Hood, and I think, again, he's not a perfect witness. There's definitely some issues there with, him being a childhood friend and things like that, but still much, much better overall, I think.
All right. Our think tank's going to stay with us. I think Michael Bixon's going to play his demo for us when we come back. Let's check back in with Julia Janae. Julia, what can we expect tomorrow?
Tomorrow we may hear from a defense investigator on the stand, and we're talking about the order of these witnesses. They may not have as much control over that because they have said that they've had difficulty with the travel, getting their witnesses here to New York. Prosecutors have complained to the court that they haven't been given notice about who's going to testify, but we'll likely hear from that investigator and then some more former employees of the defendant.
Julia Janae in Brooklyn, New York. Thanks so much, Julia.
Okay, that's the sad information coming out of New York City. I'm going to top off with this so-called friend.
Visible is wireless that doesn't play games.
Doesn't cut off when you want it to. Okay. Interesting about this commentary. Very interesting. Weak opening is what was said in this commentary. To have this denied person come in and testify wanting to play his music for Robert Kelly. As I stated when I was interjecting during the video, this is atrocious behavior in a federal courtroom. Why in the hell did you think they were letting you play your music? It's so disrespectful. He's refuting that he ever saw Mr. Kelly abuse any women. He was courteous, kind to women, which we already know that's a front, an absolute front. The second one too, it was an act. See, most sadists and sociopaths know to put on a front in front of said people. And that's the whole purpose of acting. I act a certain way in public when they're eyewitnesses, and then behind closed doors, I become the monster that I am. Amen. Security guard, former cop, testified. They said he left the force in 2007 in good standing. But I believe I was hearing information that he's come up on charges of counterfeit money. That's from another source, not mentioned in this said Court TV. I will bring you more information pertaining to that. Mr. Larry Hood. He is said to be a childhood friend. Met Aaliyah with her parents alongside Mr. Kelly at 12 or 13 years of age, and that they invited her to come on the road to help perform with Mr. Kelly, and he never checked IDs of any of the females who were in the company of Robert Kelly. And he also refutes any of the allegations that have been testified in court that Robert abused any woman, child, etc. My thing is, you can't say what happened with this person or that person because Robert did most of his wranglings behind closed doors. So how would you know what he did and did not do with a child and or an adult. So you can't say it didn't happen. You can say in your eyesight you never saw Robert abuse anyone, but you can't speak of what went on the times you were not in his company. What's expected to happen tomorrow in court on Tuesday? As you hear a commentary in this court TV video, that the prosecution is having problems with the defense is having problems with the witnesses traveling to the proceedings, which I find very interesting, because what I'm thinking to myself is, did you all not make arrangements for the witnesses to make it there? Did you not offer to pay for the airline tickets or travel expenses and lodging? I find that very interesting, because I would assume in a trial such as this nature, it being a federal trial, that the state and or the defense would make arrangements financially for their said witnesses to testify, and also their lodging. So I find it very interesting. Now, the state has a problem with not getting notices beforehand of who is going to testify, and there hasn't been any said order, obviously, of the said testimonies of the said people. So that is something that's been on the minds of the prosecution, not knowing who's going to testify, and the defense is complaining about the people not being able to make it. So now we have to ask ourselves, how many people are the defense trying to put on to testify on behalf of Robert Kelly? How many can't make it? Who's going to be the star witness to bring the bang for Mr. Robert Kelly? Very, very interesting. How many will testify? I'm very curious. How many witnesses, females, more or less, how many females will testify on behalf of Robert Kelly for the defense? And will that one female be Miss Jocelyn Savage? Because we've heard a little bit about Miss Asriel Clary's testimony. She was used as a Jane Doe during the trial, but I believe that perhaps Jocelyn Savage is still supporting him. So is she still supporting Robert Kelly? Why is she still supporting him if she is? And if so, is this a case of blind loyalty or monetary gain? Yes, because one would have to ask themselves. You've heard testimony from different people who were not allegedly engaged in any type of sexual relationship with Mr. Kelly, specifically people who he hired, and he docking their pay for very petty reasons and telling all the things they had to do as far as dealing with the women and people not being allowed to roam the house and running errands for them, and the said decorum with the women and Mr. Kelly. So what we have to ask is, will she be the head knocker of this said case? Will she bring the bang? The one that everyone's looking to hear from, to say, no, he wasn't like this or that. He treated us well. I still love him. I care for him. I'm loyal to Mr. Kelly. Who will be that said female? Will there be more than one to testify that Robert Kelly treated her in a diplomatic fashion? And as I said, Robert Kelly has to have someone to trust with his estate, his remaining estate. So naturally, he would have to put faith in someone. Who is that someone? Is it Jocelyn? Is it a relative? Who is it? Because I'm curious. You haven't seen any information or heard information about his sister, if she's over his estate. I haven't heard that she was in New York attending the trial. Maybe, I don't know. I know the other brother was attending trial, supporting his brother. So what I'm curious is, who is over Robert Kelly's estate? Because as I state, he would have to trust someone to handle his business, his name, what name he has left. Who is that said person? Who has Robert Kelly put in charge of his estate? It's a very interesting storyline. But more or less, it's just a story of a random ass black man who decided to do what he wanted to do and use and manipulate people to his advantage because he was famous. Nothing special. People use people every day. People use random people every day. Random people use random people every day. Men use and abuse and manipulate women every day. random people. And Robert Kelly is random. Don't get it twisted. He is no different than the guy down the street that uses and abuses his girlfriend's side piece, new piece. It's all the same. Wanting menage a trois, kinky sex, sex with other parties, same sex, opposite sex, it's all the same. The only difference is that information has come out pertaining to Robert Kelly, a famous R&B sensation. That's it. People are people. When I get more information pertaining to the trial, I will try to bring you updates through the week pertaining to this trial. But as it was stated with Court TV, the prosecution has rested. And the defense called Mr. Deny as a first witness, which, as you heard in his commentary, was not a good move, a weak opening. And then a former cop that worked security for Mr. Kelly, and both are denying and refuting allegations from the accusers that they saw, heard any type of inappropriate behavior and or maliciousness from Mr. Kelly exacted toward any female, woman, guy, whomever. But as I state, too many people have testified already. When you get two, that's enough. Doesn't even matter about the numbers. There are people that are not having sex with him, had sex with him, and they're saying, hey, he treated me bad. He was a poor boss. He was mean. He was vindictive. He docked my pay. He liked to holler, scream. They have recordings now of Mr. Kelly talking very mean to his own staff. That's a seal deal right there. Because now you're talking about outside people, not people bringing forth lawsuits and allegations of being held hostage, abused, sexually transmitted diseases being passed by Mr. Kelly to themselves. Outside people, employees. And some could say, well, they've got something to gain. What could they gain? Because allegedly he doesn't have any money, Mr. Kelly. Everything's up for interpretation. But I want to thank you all for joining me. If you want to donate to the channel, $ Big Angie 129 Cash App. Please follow the videos in the queue pertaining to my said uploads and lives. Thank you so very much. Thank you for all my new subscribers. I'm about under 200 subscribers shy of 9,000 subscribers. God is good. Thank you for sharing the content. Thank you for following the Queen. Thank you for donating to the Queen and the channel and the dream of everyday shenanigans. God bless all of you. Stay safe. I will bring you more information this week pertaining to the U.S. versus Robert Sylvester Kelly. Stay tuned. God bless you. Good night.